Listen, bro, we are adults. If something is bothering you, you need to learn how to communicate that shit in real time. Don't nobody got no time to be playing no guessing games with a grown motherfucker. I don't give a fuck what the circumstance is. And vice versa. If you do voice something to me, then I need to be responsible enough not to weaponize it or turn it on you or gaslight you. Like, we grown as fuck. Learn how to communicate. That's why motherfuckers be grown as hell, lonely as hell, with no friends and no relationships, because they don't know how to fucking be courageous enough to speak about what's on their heart. Like, grow up. We too old for that.
Some of y'all women are going to end up being single forever. I just came across this video of a woman and she was like, if he don't call you, you don't call him. If he don't text you, you don't text him. And when he do text you, keep it brief. Don't send any emojis. All this stuff. And I'm like, have we gotten to the point in dating where we want the men to do everything? Of course, he's not going to call and text you. If you don't call and text him, he thinks you're not interested. Like, y'all have to really discern whose advice to listen to and whose videos you need to keep on scrolling by. Because if you listen to what some of these people on this app are saying, you're going to end up alone. And this is why the communication in dating is so bad, because the woman feels like, oh, he should be reaching out. He should be blowing my phone up. And the guy is like, well, I'm tired of blowing her phone up. She needs to call and text me. And now neither of y'all are going to communicate. Does that make any sense? I think in any healthy relationship, romantic, platonic, there has to be a healthy form of communication. Both parties have to play their part.
I feel like maybe after we've established that this is going somewhere, then maybe we can talk a little bit more frequently. But if we have not even had the first date, second date, like, why am I hearing from you every day? I don't, please explain. I think that this society has made us be so codependent on hearing from people just because we are able to hear from them because we know they got phones. But back in the day, you wasn't hearing from the person that you like weeks and days at a time. And they was still, like, they was lasting longer back then. So I feel like just because you can communicate with somebody all day doesn't mean that you should, because I feel like when we are in person, like, we done talked about so much, it's like, I don't know. It's just something about that. It just gives me, like, boring. It gives me just too predictable. Like, I already know you. Even though I've only met you twice, like, I know everything about you. Like, that shouldn't be the case.
So, look, I need to get this off my chest real quick, right? Listen, I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect. But if we're going to be together, like, we got to communicate. Communicate with me in a healthy way. And what I mean by that is, we all have triggers. We all have things that, we still need to work on. And for me, I do not like arguing at all. Like, at all. So if it's something that you don't like from me, communicate with me in a healthy way. Because I'm going to do that with you. You know what I mean? I'm going to ask you, what you don't like. And let's figure out a solution instead of the arguing and then all the petty stuff that come along with it, I'm trying. So communicate with me in a healthy way. And we're going to be good forever.
If you're seeing someone and you start noticing that they have horrible communication skills, bitch, run as fast as you fucking can. One of the biggest reasons relationships end is because there's bad communication. You should not be scared to bring things up to your partner. You should not be scared of how they're going to react, what they're going to say, how they're going to treat you afterwards. You should not be brushed off when you're communicating your feelings and how something hurt you. You should not be ignored. You should not be made to feel bad. You should both be able to sit down like mature grown adults and have a civil conversation and fix the problem. I was talking to a guy a really long time ago who had the worst communication of probably any guy that I had ever met, and it was honestly such a shitty situation because I never knew where he stood. I never knew how he felt about me. I never knew if something was wrong. I never knew if something was good. Like, it was just a shit show. I refused to get into a relationship with him because I was like, how can I be with somebody who can't properly and effectively communicate? How are we ever going to solve conflict? How are we ever going to know where each other stands? How are we ever going to know how each other feels if you can't even tell me what's going on in your head? Don't even put yourself in that situation, bitch.
Why men don't communicate? The truth is, men do communicate. However, men don't communicate like women. Many of my students who are ladies ask me, he just won't talk to me. He just won't communicate. And you know what I say to him? I said, number one, you got to understand the mind of a man. First thing, men are conditioned not to communicate. Now you might say, what do I mean, coach? Because if I say too much, I might be considered weak. If I expose too many emotions, that's frowned upon. I was told ever since I was a child, you suck it up. Don't say anything. Go on. Keep going. And that's why. So here's what you have to do. You have to create a safe place for him to share his emotions. If the man senses that the place that he's in, the space that you all are in is not safe, he will not share.
You're dating or in a relationship, and how do you share your dating goals without coming across too intense? And when I say I get it, I get it. And if coming in hot tends to be a problem for you, make sure you tuck this video away. So here's what I recommend so you don't actually push them or scare them away. And while I'll explain some strategy, if the energy is not right, it will not work. And that strategy is to use curiosity. Asking questions, staying open, and truly just trying to see what their goals are too. But here's why that won't work if you don't have the right energy. And when I say energy, what's the vibe? What's the feeling? Because being curious is one thing, but being curious because you want a certain answer and you're trying to get a certain answer from them, not gonna work. Because that's called having an agenda. And people can feel when you actually have an agenda and you're not being curious. And having a conversation with somebody that has an agenda doesn't feel good. One last thing I'll add about people that say they want a long-term relationship, but then they're not. And I'm saying this with love. Maybe they do want that, but maybe it's not with you. And that's okay, because if not this, then something better.
You're not finding your person because you're trying to force communication where it is not welcome. But don't worry, I'm here to help. I'm a licensed therapist and I'm married, so who better to listen to than me? 3 reasons not to text them. Reason 1, to foster self-reliance. A lot of times the urge to text someone can stem from insecurity or uncertainty around where you stand in the relationship. Next time you're feeling insecure, I want you to avoid texting and sit in those feelings so that we can foster self-reliance. This is key because we want to have more secure attachments long term. The second reason not to text him is to avoid over accommodation. This helps maintain authenticity in the communication and it makes sure that you're not doing too much. If you are changing the way that you text, how often, when you text throughout the day, not during the day, and all that, you are not being true to yourself and this is not sustainable. Last and final reason not to text him is because we want to encourage reciprocal effort. This helps us gauge interest and encourages a more balanced dynamic. So if you're thinking about sending that text, think again, because we need to allow this person space to show us who they are and how much they want to talk to us. These 3 reasons foster a sense of self, encourages a more balanced dynamic, and positions you to feel confident in knowing how much the other person wants to talk to you. Be patient. Don't text him. Your person is out there. Let me know if you want more.
All right, ladies. So communication is definitely a very important component of building healthy relationships. However, you should never have to explain to someone nor beg someone to give you the very bare minimum while you're dating them. You should never have to explain to someone that they need to want to reach out to you, that they need to want to text you or call you. You should never have to explain to someone that they need to want to actually spend time with you. You see, sometimes it's not more communication that you need. Sometimes what you need is just a different person. Since everyone today is so concerned about communication in dating, let's talk about 3 ways that you might be over communicating in dating. 1, you can't shut up about your past relationships, past traumas, past experiences. Listen, your partner or that guy you met 2 weeks ago is not your therapist. And simply put, your past is none of their business. Number 2, you can't stop texting them. You're not texting them to convey information, but rather you think that the frequency of your text messages is an indicator of the status of your relationship. 3, you insist on sharing every thought and emotion as soon as it pops into your head. Listen, I'm not saying never share how you feel and what you think with the person you're dating, but emotional maturity is about being able to manage and regulate how you think and how you feel. Your inability to do that will make you look unstable and will overwhelm the person.
Here's an example of how to clearly communicate a boundary with the person that you're dating or your partner. Boundaries aren't to keep people out there to protect what's in, and expressing a boundary doesn't have to come with a rude or dismissive attitude. It could just be said with a lot of love and patience. My partner is incredible, but he is a little more avoidant and I'm a bit more anxious. And we've both been in therapy and he's really been challenging the way that he does things. And he's always asked me, hey, call me out on my shit, because if I don't know, how else am I going to be able to work on things? So yesterday we were having breakfast, and he's been a little short with me, and I've called him out on some shit. And I asked him something. I said, oh, how many milligrams is in the bottle? And he said, oh, it's 200 per like tablet. And I said, okay, so 400. I said, how many is in a gram? I usually take a gram and a half of this. How many is that? And he looked at me and snapped, what, you don't know the metric system? It's 1,000 milligrams in a gram. And instead of getting defensive or screaming, I just looked at him and I simply asked, where'd the attitude come from? And he looked confused. And I said, listen, I'm not a fucking idiot. I said, I was simply asking. I said, my priorities are different. I said, you know how yesterday we were measuring you for a suit? Now, I work in fashion, so of course I know how to measure things. And I said, but I wouldn't make an assumption just because you're a man, you should know how to do everything. And I said, and you just belittled me because you made an assumption that this is important to you, so that thus it should be important to me. You know the metric system by memorization, but I don't. And I said, I understand that maybe to you that's important, but it's not as important to me. And I don't appreciate that if I ask you a simple question, that you come at me with a condescending tone and judge me for not knowing something that you deem important. And I said, moving forward, you can just tell me, hey, is that not important to you? I'd love to have a conversation about it. I said, but I don't need to explain myself, nor do I need to receive an attitude when I asked you a very simple question. And he apologized. He said, you're right. I acted like a total fucking dick. And he was like, that's my rigidity. This is what I'm working on in therapy. And I really, really thank you for calling me out on that. And he's been working on it. And he has not been answering like that. And it's just a fucking process. This has nothing to do with, I don't need to communicate to my partner how to communicate with me. It's like, well, if you're not willing to talk to somebody about how they're acting towards you, how the fuck do you want people to learn and grow? So we got to start having conversations, folks.
You don't ghost the guy you're talking to just because he hasn't quote unquote committed to you. You talk to him like an adult would talk to him. You pull him to the side and you say, hey Brad, I just want to make sure we're on the same page and that our goals are aligning with what we want. Now, for me to move forward with this, I would need to feel more secure. And to feel more secure, I'd really need a commitment or a relationship is really what I'm looking for. And if that's not you in this place where you're at right now, no worries, but I'm gonna have to go after and get what I need and what I want in my life. I hope you understand that. Huh, you see how magical that is? Ladies, why would he feel the need to want to commit to you if you don't make it a requirement for commitment? Why would he say, oh Neil, why don't you just make me my girlfriend when you're already his girlfriend? When you're already doing girlfriend things? That's the template. You use the template to get what it is you want, and you communicate like an adult will communicate. You tell him straight up, and you ask him where he's standing. You don't just ghost him, ladies. You don't ghost him. Use the template, get the results. If he has no reason to make you his girlfriend, why would he make you his girlfriend? Communication 101 to get the things you want. See, a man has to be put in a place where he feels like if he doesn't do something, he could lose you. Now, if he doesn't feel like he could lose you because you're not voicing your concerns or communicating what it is you want, he ain't gonna do shit.
The biggest piece of advice that I can give you is that if you are dating someone and you're not sure what's going on or if they're interested in you, ask. I like to go by the idea that I should always be able to tell, and the person that I'm dating should always be able to tell if I'm into them. They should have heard from me that I like them, and vice versa. I want to hear from somebody that they like me. I don't like guessing games. I really think it's a waste of time. Don't enjoy it. Low value to me. Not gonna do it. Not approved by me. This also takes this self-awareness to really be mindful. We are looking to get into a relationship with somebody. We need the relationship to be there, and that happens in communication.
There are pros and cons to dating everyone, and I know mine. I run a tight ship. Pros are if I'm with you, I'm very loyal and I'm very committed. And there are a lot of really great things that come with that, but the cons? I'm not gonna let you pull some fuck shit. I don't play about being the priority. If you need to reschedule and you're saying, I gotta go, it's not just I gotta go, you gotta close that loop. It's, hey, something came up and I'll hit you back in 4 hours. If you need space, that's being communicated. You're not putting me in weird purgatory where I don't know what's going on. In regards to this topic and healthy communication, it is your job to close that loop. I am securely attached, but when you're feeling iffy about something, you'll always lean one way or another, and I will lean avoidant, and I know there's no excuse. I've been in the game long enough to know that it puts people in a frenzy when they don't have that closed communication loop. It is not hard to say, hey, I'll be back in 10 minutes. If it's going to be longer than 10 minutes, I will communicate before that 10 minutes is up. It is so easy to put them at ease. Being in my position, I know that, so I have no sympathy for someone that doesn't close that loop. When I take space, I come back in a better headspace, and it's very clear. When it's actually part of your predisposition and you're not like gamifying anything for like control tactics, you realize there's nothing to be gained from keeping them in suspense. You're just stressing someone out, and like, I don't gain anything from that. There are people that will stonewall you, which is an absolutely unacceptable thing to do to somebody. They will make sure to not close that loop every single time. Because actually avoidant people aren't doing it to hurt your feelings, like at all. But manipulative people will see you calling, see you texting, and be like, ignore, ignore, ignore. Whereas an avoidant person will be like, okay, like I need 10 more minutes. And if you can give them that space, it'll be like way better. Like, no excuse to not give people the firmer details on that situation that they're trying to take space from.
Going from texting you all the time to never texting you at all for days. No, phones are always in our hand. It takes 1 second. Now, this is the clear indication that that person is no longer fucking into you. This has nothing to do with, oh, some people aren't big texters. No, this is that this person wrote a check that they didn't want to fucking cash with you. This is why I say stop with the texting and the incessant shit, because it sets you up for anxiety that you don't really need to fucking deal with. Because what this person did is they started at 100. They started with the nonstop texting and then texting every day. And what did that show you? That you're right. That person had the time, and that person's how they connect with people. And that person created an entire version of who they wanted you to be. Then when you guys spent time together, or even if you didn't, then perhaps the reason that they stopped texting you is because they no longer wanted to fucking date you. Which is what I'm saying. A secure and healthy relationship is built on the opposite. It is built with where you don't really communicate that often because you don't fucking know that person. And as you continue to get to know them, as you date, as you build some kind of rapport, then you start picking up on the communication. You start texting more. You develop that. And then you can have clarity around it and say, hey, now we've been dating for 2 months. I would love for the daily communication, or I would love for my good morning text. Makes me feel more connected to you. But if somebody started that way and then you start to see that behavior change, that person was chasing a feeling. They had the idea of you because they didn't actually fucking know you. And now they're off to doing this to somebody else. And this is exactly what I'm trying to explain to you guys. You think that it just takes 1 second to send a text? Bullshit. Because then what I get is, well, he only texts me once a day. Should I be concerned? Is he dating other people? Because it's never the fuck enough. Because the texting doesn't actually signify anything. What it's doing to you is it's giving you the signal, yay, I'm chosen. Look, they want me. Look how available they are. They like me. But what you're missing is they don't fucking know you, that they can't like you all this way via some words on a screen. So go slower. See something progress over time and give it a fair fucking shot. Because spoiler alert, you want somebody that's fucking independent, doing their thing, going out and being a boss babe and all that shit. Well, guess what? Those people fucking work. Those people aren't by their phones all the time. And even if they are, that is a boundary that they are setting, that they should not and do not need to be accessible to people at all fucking times.
3 months tends to be the time frame that dating coaches will recommend you start discussing exclusivity. I'm not totally sure what kind of consistent communication you meant when you brought it up with this person, but I do want to say that there is a difference between constant communication and consistent communication. Because you should have consistency even in the very beginning stages of dating. Like, you always want to have another date on the calendar after you've had a date. And, you know, checking in throughout the week is super normal. Like, you're trying to build and get to know this person. But like, if you want to talk to them every single day, that's kind of relationship shit. And it's honestly super valid at the 7-week mark to ask for that. Like, discuss more terms and conditions of the relationship. It sounds to me like this person wasn't ready for that. Whether it was timing or their priorities, or they're just not the right match for you. So don't let this person's response discourage you. Your need for consistency is super valid. But just keep checking in with yourself to see if you're moving out of security or anxiety. And if you need help figuring that out, join me for my free webinar and follow for more.